All right, joining us now for more on that discussion is Lirandzu Themba, who speaks on behalf of the Minister of Police. Lirandzu, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Listening to that, one can not help but say the Minister has already drawn conclusion that the actions of the police were justified even before IPID has come up with that clearance. Why must we take the word of the police on it without the investigation having been properly done and concluded?
Evening, Thabo, and also thank you so much for the opportunity to just clarify a couple of issues. Your reporter was with us today, and I think that there was something that I picked up from the package that she had put out, which really indicated to the fact that there was contradiction to what the statement that was put out by the KZN police, as well as what the police minister has said today. There is absolutely no contradiction. The point is this: the police received information that led them to this particular residence, and when that happened, they, in error, knocked on the wrong door. And that could happen because if you can imagine a situation where two doors are less than 50 meters apart, they basically knocked on the wrong door. And when they did that, this is when the group started firing at the police. And what the minister is very clear on in that clipping that you are using is that if the police are being fired at, they have no choice but to protect themselves and the lives of citizens of the country. And that's exactly what happened in Marianhill. But no, I would really refute that respectively to say that it means that the minister has concluded as to what the IPID has said. In fact, the minister today was asked about whether or not the police or the IPID, what sort of decision should come out of that. One of the journalists asked that question, and the minister respectively pushed back and said, I cannot answer a question around the issues of what the IPID should or should not do. One, the IPID reports to the Minister of Police, but not only that, the IPID is an independent body that is, should be present as soon as a firearm of the police service is discharged, and which is what happened yesterday, and which is what happens a lot of times. So I think we need to just put things into perspective, but also put things into, factual. Yeah. Because now there's obviously a lot of emotions around what has happened in Marianhill, but this is not the only case where police have had to deal with criminals decisively. Indeed.
So are you saying then the minister and the police maybe themselves categorically are rejecting the version of the homeowner who says there is no evidence of a discharge of firearms from the suspected criminals?
But Thabo, in the very same owner that you are talking about, he says, Bengingeko. And that is isiZulu for, I was not there, but I was told. Right? So that is very important. He was not a witness to what had happened. He simply is the owner of the property of where the incident happened. Now, what is very prudent and very important about this whole incident is that we have an independent body that is going to give us clarity as to what had happened. But from where we stand as the police ministry and what the police minister has said, and also what the provincial commissioner has said, is that police have to use proportional force. If police are being fired at, they have to defend themselves, Thabo, unfortunately. So we cannot necessarily rely on just one person who, in your interview, mentions that Bengingeko, I was not there. Yeah. But I hear that this happened. So we cannot rely on hearsay, but rely on facts. And I believe that the IPID will definitely delve deep into what had happened, as they always do with all other cases where police have a shootout with criminals. Remember Makado, Thabo, when 19 criminals were gunned down, CIT suspected criminals were gunned down. And up to this day, we don't have any report from IPID that mentions that police were on the wrong here. So I think it's very important for us to really hold back our emotions, but also just look at what the facts are pointing to. And right now, what we know is that IPID is investigating. And what we know is that the police ministry stands by what the police had to do. We know in the same incident, Thabo, there were very high caliber firearms that were recovered from the scene. We also know that the same suspects that were killed, they were linked to 26 cases around the area. Yeah. One of them is a murder, another is a rape, and scores of them include robberies. Them coming into people's homes and terrorizing them and demanding all sorts of things from them. So we cannot forget that.
Yeah. If the information given to the police could have resulted in an error, because doors, are the same, they have in close proximity, how possible is it that that information could have also resulted in an error of the number of the suspected criminals in that house? I tell you why I'm asking, because one of the parents says, actually, one of those who were in the house is a cousin of one of the people who live there, and he was just visiting, happens to just be a visitor at that time, not actually part of any gang, not a part of any activity, not part of any of the 26 crimes that you're talking about.
No, that is obviously something that is coming from the parent, and that's what they believe, and this is their reality, right? So that's not going to be contested until, if there has to be a trial that has to come out of this. But what we do know from what we've been updated as a police ministry is that out of the 26 cases that came out, Thabo, the individuals that were gunned down yesterday, 7 of them have been identified, and 7 of them have been linked to the cases that have been sought after. So, what's really important to understand here is that it wasn't a once-off where police were, on a hunch and they looked for people and they found them. There has been a tracing operation that was in place here. And this involved the efforts of the crime intelligence, but also the stabilization team in KZN. Yeah. And this is why they were not just, station police that came and attended to that scene, but seasoned, but also very highly skilled police officers that had to come and confront these criminal gang. But when they did, and remember the point here, Thabo, is that they came to arrest these criminal gang because they knew that they were in the same area and they were in the same place. But when they did that, they were fired at, and police had no choice but to use the proportional force to do that.
So 7 linked, which leaves 2 that are you saying are not linked? Are they linked to other crimes? How are you bringing those particular 2 individuals into this matter of the 26 criminal activities?
At this point, Thabo, they are unidentified. We do not know who they are. Nobody has come forward to claim their bodies or their mortal remains, so we don't know who they are at this point. But we do know that the 7 that were gunned down are basically the people that the police have been looking for.
Is it possible that in those 2, it could be this cousin who was just really a bystander and unfortunately having to find themselves in that crossfire?
I would not be in a position to speculate right now. I think that we should allow processes to unfold. And if there is a cousin that you're talking about, surely the family should come out and identify who they are. Right now, we're talking about 7 people that haven't identified. 2 of them have not been identified because we don't know who they are, but they happen to be in the same premises where this criminal gang that, by the way, has been terrorizing people from, as we have understood, from October 2023 to date. As I've said, they have been responsible for murder, for rape, and also for breaking into people's homes and terrorizing the community of Marianhill. One of the things that I think I need to mention in the package that your colleague had put out just now, to say that people were pretty much apprehensive about talking about their feelings. Yes, there is definitely a feeling of fear in that community, and rightfully so, because these people were terrorizing the community. But when the cameras are off, people are coming to us. The CPF there has also been quite vocal around what has been happening, what has been transpiring in that community. And they very much have welcomed the police action there. But whether they have or have not welcomed the police action, whether or not South Africans agree with the police action, I think what's really comforting about this whole saga is the fact that we have an independent body that is going to give us an outcome of whether or not the police action was proportional to the threat. And I think this is what we need to look forward to as a country.
What was the department's view to what the other stakeholders in the sector? I mean, I had a conversation yesterday with a criminologist and a security expert that says, one, the actions of the police indicate a degree of poor operational planning, one, if there was any at all, in the sense that you went and knocked on the wrong door. If there was a degree of operational planning, at least you would have done some surveillance and you would have actually gone to the correct door. But two, the strategy and technique used is seemingly always one, shoot to kill. If you are shot at, shoot back and wipe them out first, as opposed to you could have adopted other strategies of surveilling the place, waiting for them to come out, arrest them one by one, as opposed to trying to go into them in a group. Three, there is poor accountability. So police can make the call to say these are suspected criminals and go in and shoot, and we must take the word of the police for it, and they'll never be held to account for that action.
So just on the last point, it's incorrect to say there's poor accountability. We have the Independent Police Directorate. The IPID is there for exactly what you're pointing out to, So if there was a call that was made, and whether it was good or bad or right or wrong, we have the Police Independent Directorate that is there to basically make sure that what you're saying or what the experts that you're referring to are claiming is indeed proven. And they are not just a watchdog, but they're also there for not just a punitive measure, but also to correct the police behavior. We've seen police go to jail because of the fact that they have acted incorrectly in a crime scene or in any other situation. So it isn't correct that your experts could even come on public record to say that it is, something rather police could just go on their own sort of like notion and make such calls. I don't think that is the case. But I also am very hesitant to really comment on operational matters because, as you can imagine, my position as a police ministry spokesperson, but at the same time, I can understand where there would be that sort of like line that is drawn. What is comforting, and I'm going to repeat this, Thabo, respectfully so, is that we have an independent body that is going to investigate the whole matter. But whether or not there is poor planning and whether or not police were not prepared for the scene, the point is they were confronted by armed, heavy-handed criminals that have been terrorizing a community for some time. That is a fact. Whether IPID is there or not, the point is we have a criminal syndicate that has been operating in a certain area. They have been monitored and they have been surveilled, actually. Hence, there was intel that led police to a particular area. Now, someone could obviously make the argument that, well, police probably, relied on wrong intelligence, hence they knocked on the wrong door. But Thabo, I will tell you, I was there a couple of hours ago, and the doors that you're talking about are literally less than 30 meters apart. It's like when you're in a corridor and there's room number 2 and room number 3. Those mistakes do happen, but this is what has happened. And when they did knock on room number 3, if I could put it that way, they then started shooting from room number 2. And police really had no choice but to retaliate and to protect themselves, but also to protect people around this area. We must understand that with this crime incident is taking place, Thabo, it's not an isolated area. It's not a farm. It's a township in KZN, in Durban, where there are other people that are in the area. So there had to be the protection of lives, but there also had to be a consideration that these are armed criminal gangs, and none of them could get away with what they have been doing for the past couple of months. As I mentioned to you, that we know that the first case was reported in October 2023.
Lirandzu, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on this evening, speaking on behalf of the Department of Police there. Let's take a break. More news when you return.